ويعلم ما في السماوات وما في الأرض والله على كل شيء قدير يوم تجد كل نفس ما عملت من خير محضرا.
Next, the author, he will be discussing the various Makharij. So after he discussed and he brought the diagram of the major points of articulation, the points in the mouth, the origins of the Makharij, he will now discuss the various Makharij. So he says there are 17 Makharij articulation points according to Khalil ibn Ahmad al-Farahidi. And if you look in the footnote, this is also the view held by Ibn al-Jazari and most contemporary scholars. So according to most scholars and even the authority Ibn Jazari rahimahullah, they are of the opinion that the Makharij, the places of articulation, are 17. Makharij comes from the word kharaja, which means to leave or to exit, and makhraj, the point of articulation. Number one, and before we move on, generally when they discuss the Makharij, they won't mention the makhraj of, say, alif, ba, ta, tha, jim, but rather all the letters that share a common makhraj, they will put them all into one, and they will discuss that point in whichever letters come from that particular makhraj. And normally they would discuss the makharij starting from the place closest to the chest, the lowest part of the throat, moving up until the tongue, and eventually ending by the lips. So number one, the empty space in the mouth and throat. The three lengthened letters, the mad letters, are pronounced from here. The waw sakina preceded by a dhamma, the ya sakina preceded by a kasra, and alif. Note, the alif never takes haraka and is always preceded by a fatha. So, there are a few things which we can mention. First of all, the jawf. If you look at the diagram, we said that the jawf and the place where they are speaking about here is the empty space of the mouth and the throat, meaning there is no intervention of the lips and the teeth or the tongue or anything. There's just the empty sound, the a, e, u. From the voice box, the sound that comes out, it is a straight sound. There's no intervention and no makhraj. So what letters come from here? The mad letters, the alif, waw, and ya. When it is preceded by fatha, kasra, or a dhamma, and alif is always, it always has sakin, and it is always preceded by a fatha. And if we look, when it comes to alif and hamza, I like to mention this point here, the difference between alif and hamza. Alif, as we just read, it doesn't take a haraka, and it is always preceded by a fatha. So alif, technically it is not pronounced. It doesn't have a sound of its own, but rather it is used to elongate, it is used to lengthen the sound, or the fatha. It is used to lengthen. It is not a letter on its own. Otherwise, if alif has a sound and hamza has a sound, it doesn't make sense for two of the same sounds in one alphabet. So alif, what is an alif? Alif is just that stroke, what we find normally at the beginning of the alphabet, the alif, ba, ta, tha. The alif, that is not a sound that is pronounced, but rather that letter that is used to elongate the fatha. And Hamza at the end of the alphabet, we'll find Hamza, yeah. What is that Hamza? That Hamza is that which is pronounced. So for example, if you take an alif and you put a fatha on it, or a kasra, or a dhamma, or even a sukoon, that is now a Hamza. The minute you are able to pronounce it, when you say ah, I, or I am pronouncing the Hamza. But if I'm saying, for example, qala, I'm lengthening the fatha on qa. So in that qala, after the qaf, that alif, that is an alif. It is not pronounced, it is used to lengthen. And this is just a difference between alif and Hamza. Another difference between alif and Hamza, you will find it is written in different forms. Hamza can sometimes come on its own. Hamza is usually indicated by that small head of an ayn. It is a small, it is written, it is used by means of a small head of the ayn, Hamza. It can come on its own. Sometimes it comes on a waw. Sometimes it comes on a ya. And sometimes even it comes on an alif, either at the bottom to indicate a kasra, or it can come on the top of an alif, which will indicate a fatha or a dhamma, depending on the type of the mushaf or the Quran that you're using, the print. But they are all regarded as Hamza. Whichever way it comes, it is all called Hamza. So this is just some differences between Hamza and Alif. Alif is not pronounced, but the thing that we are reading when we say, for example, Alhamdu, that which you are pronouncing, the in Alhamdu, that is a Hamza. So moving on, number 2, the lower throat, the part, or this is the part of the throat which is closest to the chest and furthest from the opening of the mouth. The Hamza and the Ha are pronounced from here. So when we say Hamza, Ha, it is from the lowest part of the throat. We should actually feel the letters coming from this part of the throat, and we should feel it in our chest. You know, the Hamza, Ha, we should feel it very low, the low part of our throat, closest to the chest. And as we can see here, the Hamza, so what Hamza are they talking about? That or I or U. It comes from this particular makharaj. Now, a way we can test the makharij of the various letters, there's a formula that we can use. Whatever letter that we're going to test the makharaj of, we make that letter sakin, meaning we put a sukoon on that letter, and it should be preceded by a hamza with a fatha. So for example, now we want to test the makhraj of hamza or ha. We would make the hamza sakin, and we'd put another hamza before it with a fatha, and now we would pronounce it a or I or u. Or we can just make it mutaharrik, meaning put a fatha or kasra or dhamma on the letter a, I, u. Now let's take ha, for example. Ha, we make it sakin because we want to test where ha comes from. Make it sakin preceded by a hamza with a fatha. So ah, I, u. Or make it mutaharrik, ha, hi, hu. So in this way we would test to find out where does all the letters come from in the various makharij. Number 3, the middle throat. The ayn and the ha are pronounced from here. So same way we can apply the same method. Ah, ih, or ha, hi, hu, or a, ir, or a, i, u. So in this method, we would find out where the makharij coming from, and we should feel it in these particular points, the bottom part of the throat or the middle part of the throat. Number 4, the upper throat. So moving up, like we said, when we discuss makharij, we would move from the lowest part all the way up, coming and eventually ending by the lips. So now we're moving right up the throat, the upper throat. This is part This is that part of the throat which is closest to the mouth. The ghain and the kha are pronounced from here.
وإذ قال إبراهيم